So as you can probably tell, and we've got about 5 minutes, and I want to have some questions if possible, that there are many ways that educators get into using some geospatial technology. For some, it's core to their curriculum. They have to teach it. For many others, though, it's the measurement capabilities, the qualitative and the quantitative capabilities of GIS nowadays. And I have a whole essay on qualitative social science tools and methods in GIS that I'm happy to share. For others, it's fieldwork. For others, it's the ability to get students into coding, just starting with simple expressions with Arcade and then building from there. And then eventually they're maybe doing something with Jupyter Notebooks. And there are other reasons, but there's no one pathway for educators. I want to say that, I encourage you to go outside your comfort zone when you're thinking about working with the educational community. Some of you are maybe saying to yourselves, well, that's great, Joseph, but I don't have a background in education. I don't know how to speak the language of educators, but you're very passionate about what you're doing, and you know the power that geospatial thinking and analysis brings. So lead with that, lead with those strengths, go outside your comfort zone. I know that many of you don't feel adequate in working with the educational system and the educational community. But think about this. How many of you feel 100% adequate in the other things that you do on the job, right? None of us feel completely 100% adequate. And I was reading a book from an author that said, my profession, I don't feel like I've arrived yet. I don't feel like I'm 100% adequate. Well, it was Paul McCartney's lyrics book that I read last year. And in that book, Sir Paul says, I'm still working at being a songwriter. I mean, if Sir Paul doesn't fit completely at his profession, then it's okay for you and I to feel a bit inadequate. Am I right? All right. So the myth there is you don't know how to do it, so you're not capable. That's not true. You can do it, and you can make a difference in the lives of people. You can work with a school down the street from your residence. You can be an adjunct. You can be on an advisory board. You can be on a PTO. There are a lot of other ways. Top 5 skills to encourage with working with students. Be curious. That leads to you being tenacious, right? Final.aprx. Really, really final.aprx. Final Friday 3 p.m.aprx. You know where I'm going with this, right, folks? You are very tenacious and you want to get that project right or whatever you're working on. Asking good questions is part of this inquiry process. And the inquiry process is the asking questions, gathering data, analyzing, leading to conclusions, leading to additional questions. That's what every educator loves, inquiry. Secondly, being able to work with data and being critical of it. That's key for GIS, especially in our modern times, right? We've got these hub sites, data libraries of various kinds. There's no shortage of data. How do we know if it's any good? And that's where that spatial reserves and other resources might be of use to you. And alongside that is, this could be a whole different webinar, Dr. Schultz, about the ethical implications of mapping, right? We are influencing people's opinions and judgments and attitudes about an issue based on how we classify, color code, choose the map projection, and all the rest of it that goes into mapping. You have a powerful influence on people's opinions. So be thoughtful about what you're doing, especially nowadays, because you can share those maps and apps with anyone. Know your geospatial and geographic foundations. This is where you folks in the ILGISA community can really be leaders because, again, as I mentioned at the beginning, there are more and more people that are coming into GIS that are sociologists, that are city planners, that are wildlife biologists, and others that really don't have a big foundation in GIS, but they see pieces of it that they want to use. So this is where you can say, you know what, if you're doing a polar study on the Arctic Ocean and possible future shipping routes, there's something called a projection, and there's something called a polar projection that you might want to use to be more accurate and precise and true in your measurements and your analysis. So this is where you, with the foundation that you folks have, can really show some leadership and give back. Who can you mentor? Also, I don't think they were very good at this last one. Who can I connect with to receive mentorship? Many of us in the community, we're happy to mentor others, but I just want to encourage you and encourage myself, seek people to mentor you as well. Don't be afraid to ask. I mentioned that GTCM, the Geospatial Technology Competency Model. Be adaptable and flexible. Be willing to go international. your disciplinary comfort zone. Like next time you go to a conference, like your face-to-face Illinois conference, go to some track that's completely outside of your own wheelhouse. Maybe you don't know anybody in the room. Maybe you don't know anything about what problems they're trying to solve over there. Go to one of those, meet some new people, expand your horizons. And also read nonfiction, fiction, poetry, other things. Don't just read GIS stuff. Great conversation starters for, hey, what are you reading these days at conferences if you don't know someone? I like this Ikigai diagram from the Japanese. What do you love? What does the world need? What can you be paid for? And what are you good at? Now, am I at the intersection of those four spheres, the circles, daily on the job? No. And you and I have struggles at work, no doubt about it. However, encouraging through GIS education to help those maybe mid-career types, maybe they're just coming out of undergrad, maybe they're just in high school, but those students to think about, yeah, what do I love to do? What am I good at? What can I do that could provide for me and my family, et cetera, and so on. I really like keeping this one in mind. And finally, as I alluded to earlier, do you have good communication? Can you articulate this message to others? Ooh, because there's still, as we talked about, a bit of an attitude about, hey, I've got mapping applications on my phone. Why do I need geospatial technology? Why do I need a GIS set of staff? So be able to articulate that to, hey, we're meeting down the hall. It's the county commissioners or it's the CEO or the board of directors, and you need to articulate why what you're doing matters and why we need to fund you for the next 5 years. Be prepared to do that, even in 2024. I wish I didn't have to say that, but it actually is not such a bad thing because it helps us to be on our toes. It helps us to refresh our memory about why this actually matters. Again, to build this more sustainable, resilient, equitable world. And I truly believe that you folks have a key role in achieving that goal. The wiser decisions with the spatial perspective for this healthier, happier, more sustainable future. All right, folks, guess where I am there? Questions, comments? I don't know, Dr. Rich, we've got about 2 precious minutes left, but it's been a joy being with you. I hope to be in your state physically face-to-face and see you all in person at some point. But until then, you know how to get a hold of me. And hopefully this has been insightful, helpful, get you thinking maybe in some new ways going forward.
Well, thank you so much, Joseph. We certainly appreciate the presentation. One of the questions that came in was, how do we get in touch with the librarian? How can we go about doing that?
Well, nowadays, the nice thing about university websites is that oftentimes you can noodle around in there a bit, find. Sometimes it comes out of the government documents librarian, but sometimes there's actually a geospatial librarian. So if you go to the library services, sometimes there's mapping geospatial services and you can find the contact. It depends on the university and college. Sometimes the staff is a little bit hidden in there and they don't have people's email addresses revealed. But if you have some trouble or some challenges with a certain campus that you're interested in, certainly my team can help you connect with a campus that you're passionate about. And ditto for those K-12 schools. Obviously, that little geeky story map that I showed with the little red schoolhouses, we don't have people's names on there for understandable reasons, right? We don't reveal people's names on that publicly accessible story map. But if you've got a school and you wonder, hey, do they have any sort of interest in GIS? Has anybody ever in the past signed up for an ArcGIS Online free account? We can let you know who that is. So I hope that helps.
Yes, thank you. One of the things that we're trying to work towards in ILGISA is bridging the gap between the professional community and the higher education community and students in particular. To that end, we're starting a job shadowing and mentorship program at ILGISA. And as a takeaway here to what you've spoken to us about and what most of our attendees have probably tuned in for is how can current GIS practitioners connect with educators today to provide for the pipeline or the future geospatial workforce, because those students of today are the future of the geospatial workforce tomorrow. So how can they do that today?
Yeah, well said. I mean, if you don't have kids or if you don't remember your own childhood, Dr. Rich is talking about one of the other key reasons to do this. You care about the future of the profession. You care about your future employees. Where are they going to come from? They're going to go through the K-12 and then the higher ed system, and or get internships, et cetera, that perhaps you can provide. So today, I would say focus on a discipline that you care about, that you have expertise in. You can't be the end all be all to every single discipline on every single campus. So focus on a campus, focus on a discipline, and again, we can help you with contacts, but focus, I think, is the key. And, like you're saying, Dr. Rich, if you all in your organizations can provide any sort of internships, pathways, that is, of course, very powerful. We try to do that at ESRI as well. We've got a certain limited number, just like you all. So, but, don't let that daunt you. I only have a certain, I can only do one intern a year. Do it anyways. You never know what kind of seeds you plant. We've got plenty of stories in that story map of students making a difference in their workplace, and they started learning GIS when they were 14 years old. So, and it's also not too late. I have many people in my courses that are mid-career, and they often say, "Oh, Joseph, it's too late to go into GIS." I'm like, "It's never too late." And we really value the mid-career types that have vast expertise for decades, and they're coming into this now too. So, one thing I would say, Dr. Rich, as we close, the Young Professional Network, the YPN, is another good organization to tap into, not just for you all, but encouraging students. You don't have to be the Y part of YPN, Young Professional Network. You could be new to GIS. You could be a seasoned veteran GIS person. It's just a great dynamic community, free to be a part of.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, folks.
Another thing, too, that you mentioned, Joseph, was the skill sets are so important for our students to develop. And the employers or potential employers know what those skill sets are and what they're wanting of future employees. And that's where that geospatial technology competency model, or GTCM, comes into play. I put a link there in the chat for accessing the GTCM. I also put Joseph's email address in there so that you can contact him. But folks, this was all about making that connection and finding those future employees who can meet your standards with the right skill sets. And they learn that in education, but they need your input in order to be able to teach the right things and what you want for that future employee. Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Gursky, for your presentation. It's an honor to have you, and we will see you all, folks, next time. Hopefully, you'll be at our annual conference next month in East Peoria. We'll see you there. Thanks, folks. Thank you, Dr. Gursky.
Thank you. Much appreciated. All right, folks, be spatial.